Howling by Gary Brander. Prologue. In the dark Arda forest, on the border between Greece and Bulgaria, there is a dead gray patch of land, roughly 1 mile square, where no one goes and nothing lives. Today, no map marks the location. No roads lead there. 400 years ago, it was a village. It was called Draja. Even when the village lived, it was a place of darkness. Peasants from the surrounding lands made the sign of the cross when they spoke its name. They entered only when they had to and left as soon as their business was done. Passing travelers were warned to avoid the place. Some who did not heed the warning would later wish they had. The stories told about Draja were unfocused and often conflicting. On one point, they all agreed. There was evil in the village. The evil took various forms, depending on the storyteller. Travelers listened to the stories and nodded. It was bad, but it was not their concern. They would skirt the village and cross themselves and tell each other that some things were best left alone. In the bleak autumn of 1583, all this changed. In that season, a shepherd named Kiost, with his wife Anya and his little daughter, brought his flock to the rich fields near Draja, the land to the north, where Kiost had always grazed his sheep, had suffered through a terrible drought, and moving the flock was the only way to keep the animals from starving. Kiost had heard the dark tales of Draja, but his need was greater than his fear. At sundown of his first day, Kiost settled his sheep and then returned to his cottage. After a family supper, he fell into a deep sleep. In the morning, he found 3 of his young lambs savagely killed, and the mother ewe bleeding pathetically over the remains. The shepherd brought in a dog to keep watch through the next night. In the morning, it too was dead. Kiost knew the family could not survive without his flock. He had to catch the killer of his sheep. Through the next night, he stayed with his flock in the fields, so that his wife would not be alone with their daughter. He sent for his sister Rachel. Kiost spent a quiet, eventful night and then worked all the following day. That evening, his little daughter, who had been playing in a nearby meadow, did not return home. Anya and Rachel called to her and searched as far from the cottage as they dared. Finally, Rachel ran to the field to get Kiost, and all 3 began to search. In a grove of alder trees near a stream where the child often played, Anya found what remained of her daughter. The small body was so badly torn it was barely recognizable as human. When the shepherd saw what had been done to his child, he let out one horrible scream. He swore vengeance and set off for the village of Draja, vowing to destroy the evil that lived there, whatever form it took. The shepherd Kiost never returned. The sheep, unattended, wandered away. Rachel stayed by the side of her sister, who refused to leave without her husband. Knowing she must have help, Rachel left the cottage one morning and journeyed many hours to a place where gypsies often made their camps. To one of the gypsies, she gave a message for her brothers in their home village, telling of the tragedies that had befallen Anya and asking the brothers to come for them. To her haste to return to the cottage, Rachel chose a shortcut I took her close to Draja. Night had fallen by the time she passed the village, and a flurry of movement caught her attention. What she saw in Draja was horrible beyond belief. The black secret of the place was the last thing she would ever experience. When her brothers, having received her message, found her mangled body, they gathered 100 men from their village and marched on Draja, armed with clubs, axes, pikes, picks, and a few matchlock firearms. They swarmed into the accursed village and herded the people into the center of town. They ordered the guilty to step forward. No one moved. It was clear then what had to be done. In that bloody day, every man, woman, and child caught in Draja was tortured to death. When the ground of the village was a crimson swamp, the bodies were stacked with layers of dry wood, soaked with pitch, and set afire. The animals were slaughtered, the village itself put to the torch. When nothing remained of Draja but ashes, these were plowed under. The flesh turned earth. The fresh turned earth was sown and sown again, but never even a weed would grow.